regularly scheduled Selectmen's Advisory Committee meeting on Buildings Infrastructure meeting on Monday, April 12th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting so that we will take comments from the public by email submitted to what the comments are supposed to be submitted to. I guess my email address, town email address, kevin.moynihan@newcanonct.gov. If we receive comments, we'll read them in the course of the meeting or before the end of the meeting. So as I said, we have a quorum with everyone except Neil and
Stuart.
Is Stuart here? Okay, maybe perhaps Stuart will join us, but anyway, we have a quorum. And first item on our agenda are the minutes. Comments and corrections on the minutes. And by the way, Dr. Lutzy, if you want to, we're going to deal with the library for the first 25 minutes or so. So unless you're interested in participating in the library, you could join us closer to 9 o'clock.
Unfortunately, I have at 9 o'clock with the state that about some other things I'm going to have to jump off on, but I'm sure Dr. Keating and I will, one of the two of us will be back for sure.
Okay, terrific. So any comments or corrections on the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of, no, this is May actually. Today's meeting is Monday, May 10th, 2021. The minutes are for the last meeting on April 12th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
George, second?
Yes.
Benny.
All in favor of approving the minutes of the April 12th meeting? Is that unanimous? I think so. Thank you. Now that we know we're in May, we'll get started with the agenda. So we have Ian Hobbs, the chairman of the building committee at the library, and we're thrilled to have an update. This committee is in support of both the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the Town Council. The Board of Finance is going to take up the library tomorrow night with a presentation, an update, and we're looking to hopefully get through P&Z this month and get the library plan underway. So part of that is understanding the energy plan for the library, especially the heating, air conditioning, since the town pays 70% of that operating budget. We'd like to understand better the plans for the HVAC system. And I think Penny in particular and George from the Board of Finance are interested in understanding the plan. So welcome, Ian. Thank you for your time and thank you for participating today.
Sure, thanks. It's, this is one of the conundrums that we talk ourselves in circles in all of construction is finding the right level of green, the right level of costs, initial costs, sustainable costs. And so it's something that we're fortunate. We have Centerbrook as our architects, Kohler Ronins, our engineers, and Turner's our pre-construction advisor, and all are very well versed in this. And I think we've done a good job of sort of trying to thread the needle as best as possible. And I think, Tiger, is it possible to share my screen? I'll take you through a PowerPoint that Centerbrook did with Kohler Ronin. That was just a way of us looking at a whole bunch of the parts of the building.
Can you, have you tried or?
Oh.
Give it a shot.
Do I need to authorize who's the host?
We are both.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Make host. Make co-host.
I think you're the only one who can do that, Kevin. I can't.
I'm trying to do it here. Co-host. You want? Okay, Ian, go ahead.
Sweet.
Oops. Not that. Sorry about that. Darn it. Jeez. Sorry, I'm not typically the host on these things. Well, now I've lost how to even share this. So maybe I'll just take you through it in a verbal way. And
Oh, we see it.
you see it?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. We have full screen.
Okay, perfect.
Good.
So this is a little bit of the initial analysis that we did to look at the different options, and then there's costs and benefits associated with. So I'm going to go through very quickly, and if you want to dig in on to certain things, we certainly can. But obviously solar panels is one that we would love to do, and depending on how much money we raise, that's something that I think would make a lot of sense for the building. There's two options that one I think is more appealing than the other, but you've got the rooftop, which is obviously a low-hanging fruit. We're going to design the building so that if we aren't able to do solar panels initially, we could potentially add it at any time with very added costs. Option two, which I doubt the town would be interested in, is if you've got center school sitting there that you could do. I think everyone's probably at this point seen parking lots that have huge solar panels over them and stuff. And, the amount of benefit is great. It doesn't look great. So that's something for a discussion. Energy recovery system is almost a lot of this is a no-brainer, but this is related to the heat pumps that we've chosen to use, but we're trying not to use outside supply air to you don't want to bring 100-degree outside air into your building on a day that you're air conditioning. So that's one that's an easy system that's not terribly expensive, but it's very efficient to use. The air to air heat pump and VRF system, I think that's the main thing that you guys want to discuss. Maybe we'll come back to that, but just to take you through some of the others that we've studied, how much light to get into the building. And this is always a trade-off between, we want a little solar gain in the winter time, but you don't want solar gain in the summertime. So you try to balance that. And so they've done very detailed analysis of how much daylight can we have so that we can minimize our light usage during the day, and how much would we need shades to block. So that's a trade-off that I can take you through. Just a quick one is the custom frit for bird strike prevention. Modern buildings are, it's a terrible thing for birds, believe it or not. So they've come up with bird glass, which serves two purposes. It protects the birds, that they see it very clearly and they don't run into it. But it also actually provides a lot of solar protection from for the building, and you really minimally see it from the inside. Humans minimally see it. We got local stone sources. We've got a combustible vapor fireplace, which these are both sort of low ones. Again, skylight optimization for daylight autonomy. So that's how we're going to deal with minimizing electricity for lighting. Local millworks. We've got internal plants. This is a big one. And we can go through an additional slide in a second on the different glass options and there's really a sweet spot here. There's basic insulated glass. There is double treated insulated glass, which has a low E coating, as well as a coating called ISO 20, which gives tremendous benefit for how much light gets in and how much heat gets transferred into the building. So this is that we feel is the sweet spot. The third option, which is very expensive and really not used in Connecticut, is triple glazed glass. That's really much more of a Wyoming, Montana kind of a climate would do that. And it's just the incremental cost is very high and the benefit isn't quite as good. And then stormwater gardens of controlling the water within our property. And again, these are slides that I'm going to go through way too fast, but you can definitely, we can share this with you and even update it with from this December presentation. But you can see that we're trying to cut down 75% of our energy use. We've looked at what impact the solar gain is. We're looking at how much daylight we can get into the building. Material assessments is trying to build it as clean as possible with its green material. The carbon goal is a 5% decrease. Indoor water use is, we'll do everything we can there. Here's our different scenarios for energy use intensity. That there's an architectural 2030 goal that's trying to cut carbon use in buildings by, I think it's 85% is the goal by 2030. And this would be if we can cut it by 75%. This is if we cut it by 80%. I truthfully don't know what that one stands for, but if we do our HVAC upgrades with an efficient system, here's where we are with lighting upgrades, with building envelope upgrades. So we're somewhere between 48 and a scenario of 23 BTUs per square foot per year. And it's all dependent on which options we've chosen. Here's cost per square foot per year, again, with the same option. So currently we're at $1.99 per square foot, so call it $2. If you did everything and cost was no object, you'd be down, you'd almost cut it in half. But
Ian, is that electricity and fuel oil cost for heating versus the cost of an all-electric building?
I believe this is, let me just see here. It's assuming $3 gas and oil, 20 cents kilowatt electric, and then various other assumptions. So that is, that's for total energy.
Right.
Carbon footprint, again, with the different options, you can just see that it's, we can have different ways of picking that. So here we have, this is in 2003 average library in our climate zone. Here's our existing library. And then again, going down, this is if you did, I think, the rooftop solar panels. So we're somewhere going from 48 down to somewhere in the 28 range, I think is where we think we'll end up. We looked at, there's an overhang on the building, which gives it a good, nice architectural detail, but there is expense added to it. And so the largest overhang gives you the best bang for your buck, because it prevents the solar gain and it limits your cooling in the summertime. As we hit the 50% construction drawings, we are up just a little bit. And if you did no spandrel, that you'd be up even higher of BTUs per square foot. This is the glass options, that you've got a base option. You've got the argon in the middle of it's in the middle of the glass. And then you've got the two coatings, the IS-20 and the low E. And then this is triple glazed. So you can just see, to go to the mid-range when it's $100,000 to $150,000 increase. And there is a little rebate potential, and up to $50,000 to $90,000 of savings by doing that. The triple glaze is much more expensive at $300,000 to $450,000, but you do reduce a little more, so you get a little more savings. But it's, again, it's not really it makes sense in our climate. The building envelope we've instructed to go as intense as makes sense. That they're, you can certainly make a building that doesn't release or holds all energy, but it's not feasible. But we're going to have a very intense building envelope that's as high as standard as most buildings would go in this in these times. This is the so this is looking at the HVAC system, and I think the important thing to realize here is what an advantage for us. One is that we're using the ERV system, which is a way, again, of tempering the air and not losing all of the air you've already conditioned. And you take an outdoor unit and you run piping, not ductwork, to local units, which will heat and cool the space. And then it's just, this is a way to look at prioritizing which of these for estimated costs. You know, we looked at geothermal wells. The site is probably not big enough to handle doing much with geothermal wells. And there's always, geothermal makes a lot of sense when you get a lot of state dollars, and I'm not sure the appetite for that. So you can see, I just hope the point of this is, I know it's very fast, but the point is just to show that it's been a very thorough study. And I guess we can jump in. Is one of the big ones I think you guys are concerned with is electric versus the gas powered heat pumps. Is that a good place to jump
That
in?
was one of our thoughts, because of the fact that your brother is taking money to convert the public housing units from electric heat pumps to gas. And we just wondered why, was that evaluated and what's the difference?
Sure. Well, there's two different parts to that. There's the gas heat pumps, and there's the cogen unit, which will actually provide, or I think it's CRP. Is that what it's?
Yeah, the CHP. We're doing CHP in several school buildings and town buildings, and that was another. The gas is in the ground,
Right.
or in the road, 25 feet away. I just kind of wonder why you wouldn't consider that as part of your strategy, since unless it's an anti-carbon feeling versus savings from generating your own.
Well, the electric heat pumps, according to Turner and Centerbrook and Kohler Ronan, have gotten so much more efficient over time, and we're seeing this in the residential world too. It is a little bit of a carbon and cost question of what's the future of any of this, and this changes between presidential administrations. So obviously the Trump administration had one feeling, the Biden administration has another feeling. So it's hard to come to firm conclusions. In the Northeast, you've got very clean electrical power compared to areas of the country that are using coal for their electrical power. So we have a lot of renewables, and we do have some nuclear power that's providing us with the electricity. So from a carbon input act, it is cleaner probably than the natural gas. The efficiency has gone up. And so to me, one of the big influencers was Turner, who's probably I don't know if they're the biggest, but among the biggest commercial construction companies in the country, said this is what they're seeing on their commercial buildings more and more. In fact, the vast majority of their buildings are using these electric heat pumps. There's a difference between residential and the commercial in that, if you think of the project that my brother's involved in, there's so many individual rooms in those spaces that you'd have a tremendous number of the electric heat pumps to feed all those rooms. And here we have a very open floor plans. And so we don't need to have individual, we can feed big rooms with these units. They're very efficient, and we avoid combustibles on the site. We don't have to, they're not ducted like a traditional ducted system. So we've got little refrigerant tubes and hot water tubes that come to feed the units. So it's a much easier, faster design. So there's a lot less initial expense. And then, you're gambling, if anyone can tell me what's the price of natural gas, electricity, and oil in 4 years from now, it's going to be anyone could guess. And I think that what we're being told is that these electric units are extremely efficient, and that's, I think it goes a long way when Turner says this is what we recommend. And then just to go into the cogen question, the importance of cogen, or the great thing you get with cogen, besides you're generating your own electricity, is that you get a bunch of heat and exhaust again, we've avoided having any combustion in the building, but you need a use for that heat. And so a great use is if you have a swimming pool, that's a great use. You can heat the swimming pool essentially for nothing and as a residual of this of a CHP. So you but in a housing project, you have a ton of domestic hot water that you've got washing machines and you've got showers and sinks and whatever else you've got. At the library, you know, you've got a few sinks where people are going to be washing their hands, and there's no showers, there's no laundry. There's a teaching kitchen that's going to use minimal hot water. So I don't think we have a use for the hot water for any of that heat, and it means ducting all over the place is going to be the other question.
What about radiant floor heat?
I can only speak from well, I can speak from the residential construction side. Is you've got to have you can only heat obviously from using a radiant flooring. So you'd have to put in two systems at that point, no matter what. Whereas with heat pumps, the heating and cooling comes from the heat pump. So you're just putting in one system. So it's a very nice use of heat. It doesn't recover very well. So you'd need to have a backup heat system. And, you know, I think it's more of a luxury than a necessity. I think it's pretty uncommon in commercial buildings.
Okay. If any other committee members have questions, please jump in.
Well, thanks, Ian. This is a ton of information that you kind of flew through at about a Mark III speed level. And certainly I'm not technically competent to have a view on this, but I am kind of a very simple-minded kind of guy. How much does it cost to do the electric powered heat pumps? And is it possible to do the heat pumps powered by gas? And what's the difference in the cost?
I have to get that for you. I was asked to speak on Thursday afternoon, and I had Friday to pull my numbers together. And so we have been designing, and so these slides have been up. Well, we should update them to reflect what decisions have been made to this point. So I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
It's Penny. I have a question about heat pumps. I thought heat pumps weren't particularly efficient in our climate. When you take a winter like we had last winter, you know, with below 20-degree days, there's no heat in the air to extract, so your electric kicks in. And with Connecticut being the highest electric rates in the continental United States, it makes me really nervous to, you know, have such dependency on the electric grid.
You know, let me come back to you again. This is 6 months since I've really focused on this. So I'll come back to you that 6 months ago when we went through it, it was pretty clear that there is an initial cost of installation, and then there's a cost to run it. And by looking at the glass, looking at the potential for doing solar power, it was a no-brainer to do this route versus the initial investment was going to take a long time for payoff if we went with the gas heat pumps. But I got to come back to you with some numbers and some efficiency on those.
Well, but also the question is the efficiency of having a heat pump when you're in an environment like last winter where there's no heat in the air to extract.
Let me, you know, this is where I'm limited. I'm a generalist, I would say. I'm not an expert in specific HVAC items. So let me come back to you with going back to the logic and the discussion of it. You know, I tried to get Kohler Ronan, who's our engineer, onto this, but they just couldn't get on short notice for a Monday morning. So,
Well, I think it'd be really important for us to understand that. I mean, I live in a house. I have heat pumps on one floor. I have a lot of glass, and so I'm kind of aware of the low E and the, you know, radiant heating bouncing back in and the UV bouncing off. So They really are serious considerations, particularly when you live in an environment like New Canaan. You know, we're not down south where we've got a lot of warmth in the air that you can constantly be, you know, extracting. We have, you know, severe winters.
Ian, one other question I had was, you know, if Centerbrook or Turner or was it Kohler as the engineers have examples of other new buildings in the past 10 years that have been built with all electric heat in the Northeast versus if gas is available. And you know, that comparison is something I'd be curious to know, or examples of other large commercial buildings, especially glass buildings, and what they've done in those situations. You know, if it does come up between a trade-off of initial investment of capital versus your future operating costs, that's the kind of key question I'd be curious to know more about.
Sure. That's, I think it's a good discussion to have. We did have that discussion, and I got to go back to remember exactly the numbers and how we came to this conclusion. And it's one thing that, I mean, I have to give Centerbrook some credit. They really do think about a lot of stuff. So they, and a very important ratio is glass to wall ratio, and 40% is the ballpark that you don't want to exceed. They're well below that. So while it is a glass building, it's strategically located glass, believe it or not. So that if you look, there's areas that are significant wall and envelope that don't have the glass. So they've looked at that and weighed it. They looked at, if you think of the south side of Maple Street facing Center School's parking lot, it has a lot of glass, but they're also going to use trees in that along that area to provide shade, and that overhang does make a difference, and that was studied very carefully. So it's not just you know, trying to be a monument. It's trying to be a usable, thoughtful building.
So I had a question about the solar, this
Yes.
penny ration.
Yes.
I was just wondering, it looked like you were considering buying the solar panels. I think it had a fairly high price tag on it. And I was wondering whether or not you had looked at a purchase power agreement. That's the way the schools have gone. You don't have to do it now. I mean,
Right.
As long as you're designing for solar, you can build the building, and then you could go out to bid. We could maybe try and bundle it when we're doing other town projects. But it's a very efficient way to get some benefit. You do have to apply for Z-Rex. I don't know if you'd be a small or medium Z-Rex depending upon how much square footage you had.
I'm trying to look for that slide.
You know, this is something I talked to Paul Stone about, Ian, that,
Yes.
you know, the state of Connecticut has these incentives going on with their part of their 10-year energy plan. And they're going to be going away. And there's an auction opening up through the middle of June that we're going to participate in for the high school. And, you know, signing a PPA is a no-brainer in terms of getting down to the low 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour versus the 16 to 20 cents you're paying to Eversource.
Exactly. Sorry, I didn't hit this slide. But yes, we looked at, there's 3 different options, and we're open to any of those options. You know, we're in this question mark fundraising period where, you know, we don't have the money yet from the town. We haven't finished our fundraising, and we would love to do solar, because with the solar, this HVAC system it doesn't even come close to even be a discussion. And so we'd love to talk further about it, but it's also, you know, it's $1 million or something like that to do these solar panels.
If you do a PPA, there's no capital outlay. I mean, there are a few minor expenses, but you start getting, it's a really good return typically with the schools. You get your money back, and it sounds like a long-term commitment. I mean, because you have them on for 20 years, but it seems to actually be working out for, you know, a lot of entities. I know they have a ton of these in Fairfield. I mean, we have them on South and, you know, East. We're putting them on West and Saks. Anyhow, we'd be happy to show them to you and how they work. And, you know, there's a lot of expertise in town now with dealing with PPAs. We negotiated an agreement that we think protects the schools and the town really well, you know, so we could share that with you in terms of what you want. You know, in a PPA, you don't just want to go with the off the rack one.
Right.
But I mean, the great thing is it's you just, I mean, you don't need to fundraise.
Right. Nope. That's it's definitely a good point of discussion for us, and we'd love the town to help us out any way they can with that, with their knowledge. You know, and I look at this, it's, you know, this is the analysis of a PPA with, I look at the cons of escalating power purchase agreement. I don't think, you know, if you go into it wisely, I don't think that's much of a downside, and no ownership of renewable energy credits. And I don't think that's really too much of a concern for the library or the town. So, you know, those aren't very big downs, and the pros of no upfront cost and reduced utility cost is big.
So Ian, why don't we wrap this up as far as for today? The you know, the Board of Finance is going to be acting in June on the MOU and wrapping up their approval process for the library. And I think the next few weeks, if we could work with you and Paul Stone to sort of get a little more answers on the comparison of gas versus electric heat pumps, and also if we can talk about possibly helping with this solar opportunity, because again, the Connecticut incentives are going to go away, and we really need to capitalize on them while they're still there. So.
Right. Sorry, and you did have one other question about emergency generator.
Is there going to be an emergency generator?
Well, here's our thinking on this is, in the history of the library in the short term, last 10, 15 years, the only power outage was through a purely Eversource, their power line went bad and they jumped on it and got it fixed. But that we are on a redundant loop there. So it's a, you know, it's a priority one for Eversource to get us back if there was a problem, not to mention there's 2 loops serving the town there. So it hasn't been a problem. You know, I think this is a discussion for the town as well as us, that it's from the library's perspective.
That's a fair point. You know, I now remember Lisa saying that you really haven't gone down because of the location on the grid that you are. So that's a very fair point. Unlike the Y, which we'd love to have the Y have a generator to be an emergency shelter. So
it's a good discussion. It's, you know, again, it's a big expense. It's a huge piece of equipment, which we'd have to find a place to put it. And if you put it on the roof, it's going to take up room for solar panels, that kind of stuff. But it's a worthwhile discussion. It just hasn't been an issue on this piece of property. Not to say that, you know, who knows, we can get disaster earthquake that we never thought we'd have, and it might come in real handy then, but that's a lot of money to expend waiting for the earthquake to hit Connecticut.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Ian?
Hey, Ian, Mark Robbins here. Well, super, I mean, New Canaan could not be better served by having an all-star team between Hobbs and Paul Stone and Turner and Centerbrook. It's like, it's just spectacular. So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions and point out on this slide, which is a terrific comparo on PPA versus ownership, et cetera. The PPAs that we've negotiated for municipal buildings have been flat, no escalations.
Right.
So we have been able to, you know, leverage the good credit of the municipality so that we've been able to secure flat PPAs. So that's another positive to them. But it looks like Kohler did some energy modeling, and I think you pointed out one of the slides showed 300,000, about 305,000 kWh a year. Is that the go forward projected electrical usage for the library?
You know, let me get that information.
Because that's great to see. I'm happy to follow up with you offline, but that's actually lines up. That is almost, you know, that's very similar to like South School.
Okay.
And South School, a little bit higher than that, but it's in the range of South School's, you know, electrical usage. And we're producing more than that on the roof. So just bragging rights there, a building like that, you know, with the energy efficiency work that you'll be implementing would be a net zero off the grid, all self-generated power scenarios. That would be pretty exciting. And I think you had a $2 a square foot utility operating cost, which just as the metric, just sort of our takeaway. So that would be something.
Yeah, I'd love to get, if there's any way just to get a list of questions I can go back to the engineers with. They're the guys that can come back and have the best experience with this stuff. So anything you guys come up with, we're happy to look at, and we are committed. I mean, it would be so exciting to get the solar panels and come up with a building that's so sustainable that it's not even a discussion for future.
Yeah, Ian, that's where, Paul Stone could work with Mark, because we're going to be submitting a bid before the middle of June for the high school roof.
Gotcha.
And that's a medium, which
That'll be a medium. Yep.
I'm not sure the library can take a medium, but the fact of the matter is, then you have 18 months after you get the award, which will be at the end of the summer, to install it. So given the timing of your project, that would all fit together.
Right.
So Ian, one of the things I think that we'd need to know would be from the, your specialists is where and how much square footage you think you can support for solar if they've done that analysis. And then we could look at how big a ZREC you could apply for.
Sure. At this time, we're just going to look at library roof, I think, not any.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's just what we've done so far. But that would be a question for the engineers and for Centerbrook.
Exactly. They've run those numbers. I don't know them off my top of my head, but
Ian, I'm gonna stop you here and thank you for your time and this information. We have to move on to another item on the agenda. So we will be in touch, and thank you very much for joining us today.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
You have to stop sharing, I think, because since
Geez, I hit some button and
Tiger, do you know how to?
and it took away that little thing that says, how do you share?
I wonder.
There you go.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay, thank you
Right.
again. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to CHP updates. So we've had some developments in the past few weeks with our discussions with Eversource. Eversource is coming in the next few weeks to Main Street to work over at nights to install gas up as far as from East Avenue to Locust and down Locust to the 42 Forest Street project. And that will bring gas to the town hall, unless we come from Park Street. We've been debating which direction to come for town hall. And also the Lapham Community Center is an opportunity for us to bring CHP to it. So the point is this: we also Eversource, really, it's a bridge too far for them to bring gas to West School. They have to meet Purist standards, and as much as we've been trying to give them a portfolio of usage of gas downtown with the Canaan Parish project and the CHP we're doing, and they really feel they're stretching to try to get the West School done. Much as I'd like to have that happen, because I think it's a long-term benefit, not only for the school, but also for the residents on Bonus Ridge there. But so therefore, we are proposing that we had Aegis come down. Aegis has been the low bidder on both the town projects at the wastewater treatment plant, the highway garage, and now with the SAC school project. Aegis is a leader in CHP in the Northeast, having installed 1,000 installations in the past 25 years or so. And I'm very impressed with Aegis in terms of their capabilities and their when you sign up with Aegis, you're not only having them install a system, they operate it for you, and you don't touch it because it's a highly complex installation that only they know how to run. And so in the discussions, I think it's pretty clear that there really needs to be no phase 2 at SACS. That discussion has to be had with Joanne and Dan and Brian to understand what we would try to accomplish at SACS if we try to do more, or why we would want to. I guess I noticed Eric has joined us. Eric from Aegis. Good morning, Eric. I forget Eric's last name.
Eric Eller.
Eric Eller. Good morning, Eric. So we're going to have a brief discussion here about the Aegis installation at the water treatment plant and the highway garage, which is now operating. A little bit delayed because of Eversource getting gas hooked up in the road. But now we're and Penny and I and George and Neil have gone over and looked at that installation and understand it better, exactly how it operates. And so the proposal that we're going to make to the Board of Finance is that we take the money that was possible second phase at Saks and instead redirect that to do 2 town buildings, Town Hall and the Lapham Community Center, which would also possibly power the lights at we have a $66,000 electric bill at Lapham Center and at the Water Tower Field lights. And then study the high school after the roof is done and solar is added, what the needs of the high school would be. And my proposal would be to have Joanne and Dr. Lutzy and Dan talk to Aegis and understand what they would propose to do at the high school. And then we can still go out to bid for a project. But I think the Aegis capabilities to be the town of New Canaan vendor for CHP would be an opportunity. I think I'd like to recommend and pursue myself. So how do we want to proceed with this? Eric, would you kind of give us a brief introduction to what Aegis would plan to do at the town hall and Lapham? And then, we haven't still decided at Saks which direction to go in, whether we're going to do 175 versus 235s. And Eric has had experience in the past 4 years with installing Yanmar, which is manufactured in Japan by a Japanese company, but they found it to be much more flexible. Eric has information that he can provide about schools they've done in the neighborhood and in New Jersey, and the fact that most of those installations are 35s and not more. So anyway, Eric, could you just kind of take a few minutes and tell us about Aegis and what you would propose we might do to do further installations in New Canaan?
Well, thank you, and thanks for inviting us on here. Also, Dan Burke is on the call as well.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Dan.
So we're working together on this project, and just give you kind of an overview. As you had mentioned, we've installed the 2 units down at the Department of Public Works, and those are up and running at present. We've worked with Mark Robbins from MHR and continue to do so in the town of New Canaan, and we understand what some of the needs are of the town. Gas is new, and you're looking to utilize it as best as possible within your town building. So we're here to help. As far as Dan, if you want to give some background
Sure.
of some of the things that we've done that might be interested in.
Yeah, thanks. So, the company itself, real quickly, for those that don't know us, 35-year-old company. We've been installing combined heat and power units all along the eastern seacoast from Maine to DC, have nearly 1,000 installs in all types of verticals. And a couple of years ago, we were purchased by a large European company called EDF, and specifically their energy efficiency arm called Dalkia. So that's thus the name Dalkia. Aegis at this point, our name has changed a couple times from morphing over to the new company. The interesting about that company, $80 billion company, they're the largest utility in the world. It gives us a great financial strength to continue our mission, which is to put on-site power into buildings across the nation and reduce carbon footprint. So lots of experience with schools all over New England. In New Jersey, there's a special regulation that helps install these systems into schools, provides a 30% incentive, as well as a contracting incentive for those schools. So it's been very, very popular there. In that specific industry, we found that while we manufacture our 75 kilowatt system here in Holyoke, Massachusetts, this is the 35 kilowatt system, which is mass produced in Japan, and really they have about 10,000 installs in Japan. A really robust system. that provides additional flexibility for a school. School has a different kind of needs, low summer need, high winter need. Shoulder seasons are kind of one day in New England it's 80, the next day it's 50. You don't know what you're turning the heat on and you're turning the air conditioning on. So what we're able to do with the 35 kilowatt systems is turn one on, turn one off, lead and lag them, and run them more efficiently than a single engine as we go through those shoulder seasons, and with the varying need that can be day by day or week by week. So our recommendation for that school, after we looked at the profiles in collaboration with Mark, was to actually do 235 kilowatt systems. We feel that will be more efficient there. On the other buildings that we've looked at, I think we're also looking at 35 kilowatt systems, again, based on the hours that they're open, the profile, energy profiles that we see. I think 35 kilowatt system provides that flexibility and a lower operating cost at the end of the day, because when we turn a system off, there's no maintenance associated. There's no maintenance cost associated. So on the O&M side of things, we're charging by the run hour. So as the system's running, it's consuming oil and wear on the engine. So if it's not running, then it's not consuming. So we don't charge you for that. So there's some additional longer term benefits as well for lower operating costs. So it was a really high level kind of overview of what we see going on at your buildings. We thank you very much for the opportunities to work with you. And we're happy to answer questions as they might spur, and I can get into a lot more detail if you want to, but we want to just give a high level overview for today.
Dan, one question I have is, how do you actually program these things? Or I know you monitor them remotely by Wi-Fi, so the machine, you're constantly monitoring all your installations. That how do you decide how to program as to when to run? Or do they get computer designed based upon normal utilization and they just kind of run, or what?
Yeah, so the systems themselves, they can run, and they're gonna 35 kilowatt system, they can modulate, right? So they can go down to about 14 kilowatts, go up to 35, depending on the need of the building. And we can program those in 3 specific ways. One is just to follow the electric load. So whatever that the building will consume will meet or match. The most common method is to thermally follow. And that would act similar to your boiler, really. So as the thermal need is there, the machine will ramp up and down to produce whatever thermal load is there. In that case, you're co-generating 100% of the time. In your case, there's opportunities where you don't have the thermal load, but the electricity is really high. And so the spark spread means that we should run and exhaust the heat. So we can electrically follow in that situation. Or the third option is we can provide, and we do this a lot with the schools, is a custom designed schedule. So that schedule might say, run during these hours full, at night, turn down, turn off, those kinds of things. Between 2 and 4, turn off, then turn back on at 5. So we can really custom program at the actual run schedule. In addition to that, we are monitoring the system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in real time through a network operating center here in Holyoke, Massachusetts, so that the machine is talking to us and giving us input and feedback. So if there's a brownout or a blip, if your power ever flickers, okay, well, that will turn the machine off. And we're going to get an alarm here at the center that says the machine turned off. There was a power blip, and the technicians here can go in and restart the machine automatically, get it back up and running. Conversely, we can react to those temperature changes here in the NOC center so that we can say, hey, it's snowing here in June, so we need to turn these machines into thermal, load bank, change the schedule that we had planned for them. So that really provides that set it and forget it for the town. We're not asking the town to do any maintenance on this or do any anything with it at all. We're controlling it, and if need be, we're dispatching our service technicians automatically when we see the need.
So Dan, this
Hi.
is Penny Rash, and I'm on the Board of Ed. And we've been looking at we're delighted to work with you on the SACS project. We've had that project designed by OLA. OLA are the engineers that designed the building. They designed they did the upgrade. They did the new addition, so they understand all the loads. They've done a detailed analysis on it, and their recommendation is a 75, and that's actually why we went out to bid, particularly specifying a 75. Now, if you have different information, I don't think, we'd be happy to get you together or, talk to OLA and sort this out. But, right now it's a 75 project, and Mark has, been following it, but we've really been working with OLA. So I think that's who we need to, that's where we designed it, and that's how we need, we need to have get the two of you, talking.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to do that. And just to make this point, they put a 75 in. And of course, we've been manufacturing, installing 75s for 35 years. So it is a mainstay product. The 35s have only been in the US for about 4 years or so. So it's in our world, it's newer. But what we're proposing here is 70 kilowatts, right? So substantially the same amount of energy being produced in terms of kilowatts and thermal output. We're just doing it in a different manner. We're taking two smaller engines and making 70 kilowatts, as opposed to having one single engine that's making 75. And so the recommendation to do that is because of what I said. With two smaller engines, instead of running one engine all the way down to 14 kilowatts, we could turn one engine off and run one engine at 14 kilowatts. So
right. No, look, I know you have your reason. I'm not expert on it, so I don't want to take up your time. We did an analysis. We've got a memo on it. We're happy to share with you. It shows that the payback on a 75 is about a year earlier than the payback on 235s. There's also a possibility, depending upon how the load goes and how we see this work, of adding another 35 in the future. So, I think that it was designed with a lot of care and attention by, people who are specialists. And I know you guys have a lot of expertise too. So I just think that we could, we were actually, that's the way we should go.
Happy to do that. I think they were on one of our calls that we talked to them, and they were aware of our recommendation. So we're happy to work with them on that for sure.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, Eric and Dan, more about, apparently you were installing 75s in schools over in the New Haven area and stuff. And, how, apparently in some schools, you just shut them off for the summer entirely, especially where you have solar. You want to use your cheapest source of power first. And also the opportunity to do more solar at SACS as well as at the high school kind of all ties into how you design what you're trying to solve for. So I think we have more discussion to go here. I think I would be interested in having more information about your experience in the schools in Connecticut, New Jersey, et cetera. And so any questions for anybody else?
Dan, when you need to have a service technician physically come to a plant, where do you dispatch them from, and how long does it take to get them to New Canaan?
Sure. So we have technicians all that live in the areas we service, so Maine to DC. Certainly we have a mainstay of technicians that are in Connecticut, in Massachusetts, where we're from, and a bunch in New York as well. So our go-to-market strategy is to have at least 2 to 3 technicians within a 2-hour radius of any install that we have. Mm-hmm. So we do have several technicians that you could pull from that would meet that. Most of our service is done as a scheduled, item, but we do have emergency and same-day service available. And we also have service technicians working normal days, 7 days through the weekend. So we have guys that, Saturdays they're Monday or Sundays they're Monday and those kinds of things too. So we can provide that service to you. So we are able to provide within a 2 hour is the answer.
I've got a little bit of a different kind of question. You said that all 1,000 or so of your customers are monitored at one data center. I'm sure you've done emergency scenarios. What happens when that data center goes down?
Yeah, so we have our center here is backed up, of course, and it's we have we're a Google platform, a Google clouded platform.
Okay.
As well. So we're able to really log in from anywhere else into our system and get it up and running and do what we need to do.
Okay.
And
Thank
in
you.
today's COVID environment, some of our technicians are working from home, and
Sure.
through our systems.
Stuart, one of the great things about this, you're always on the grid and you can just, who shuts it off? I mean, do you decide in Holyoke to shut it off, or do we ever locally decide to shut the system down?
Well, as far as the how the system will operate, that's going to be programmed into the system. And to answer your question, we can shut it off from our system, and you can shut it off right at the system as well. So there is a emergency stop button that turns it off. We have data points that can be sent to your local technicians, or we have an app. They can put it on their phone. They can get alerts if there's if the system's in any kind of alarm or anything like that. So
also, in the summertime, we often turn on the emergency generator at town hall because the Eversource tells us that we have brownouts where we have to keep our computers running. So we having a 35 at the town hall would eliminate the need to have the emergency generator running in August. And so that's part of this whole flexibility in terms of what we're trying to accomplish.
You're much cleaner to run the natural gas engine than a diesel engine for the environment. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so we have more work to be done, but tomorrow night we go to the Board of Finance on bond resolutions, and that proposal will be made. And then we ought to be scheduling a meeting, Joanne and Tan, actually Joanne and our Dan, who's not here today, with Aegis, so we can decide how to go forward for SACS, because that project is in motion. And so Eric and Dan, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, we'll be in touch shortly.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to our project updates. It's we're coming up on the hour. We can go another 15 or 20 minutes, but project updates, Tiger.
Okay, all right, thank you. Biggest news we have is that the West Road Bridge is open. 2 months early. Very nice. This is. Did it travel smooth for you?
It's
I'm
real
hoping
smooth.
you say yes.
Yes.
Or I should say smoothly. So this is a view heading southbound to it. We opened up the sight lines on either side. So again, 2 months earlier, kudos to Joe and the staff from Dayton. They did a fantastic job. 123 is open as well. That was open on time. That's a state project, but it's open on time right now. They just have daily shoulder closures, and that should take about another week or so. And then the other one that we have is that we recently completed River Street with a sidewalk installation and new roadway. So it looks really, really nice. Complete makeover of the neighborhood, we should say. So it looks fantastic in that regard. The Waveney parking lot has been paved. I sent the quote, approved quote back for the striping. Should happen this week. And then once that's done, we have some minor work to do. And I'll share a picture with that later at our next meeting. So that those are kind of our top 4 that we needed to get done. And then the Nature Center lot is complete as well. So that the entire driveway and the Nature Center parking lot is done, and the greenhouse is down and removed. So that kind of takes us through what we had out carried over from last year, our early projects from this year. What we have coming up is our Pave 2021 is out to bid. That includes Mortimer, Brinkerhoff, and Lockwood, as well as about 9 other roads. And we have another 9 roads for micro thin overlay and 20 plus roads, 20 miles in total for crack sealing. That'll be brought to the Selectmen next week. And then we have the high school lot and the East School Circle to be done this summer. So we're working through plans right now with the school. We have to meet with Dan Clark out on East School just to go through some things. And then the bump outs on Elm Street that we're proposing, we have a meeting with the Police Commission, a field review on Wednesday afternoon. Anyone who'd like to attend or join us, that's at 2 o'clock. And then that'll bring us to Eversource and Aquarian. Kevin mentioned Eversource's work. They're planning to start either the night of the 16th or the morning of the 17th in carrying gas from East Avenue on Main Street all the way down Locust to the intersection with Forest Street to feed the new development at 42 Forest, Silver Heights itself. I spoke to Ron Dano. He's the contractor for Aquarian. Aquarian and Ron Dano are installing new water mains on Main Street and then going to be coming through downtown. Right now, the main is installed on Main Street. They're just waiting. It's being flushed and filled. So then it has to be pressure tested and chlorinated, and then they'll do the service changes. And at that point in time, sometime early June, they're going to start work at the intersection of Cherry and Main, come down, Cherry and South, come down Cherry Street to Main Street, hook a left, and come Main Street to Locust Avenue. That will be done throughout the early parts of the summer. And then the latter part of the summer, late July, August, they have to do a stretch of water main on Elm Street from Park to Grove. So they're hoping all in to be done sometime in October. That's the overall plan for those two. And at that point in time, once Eversource finishes the installation of gas on Main Street itself, then they're going to revert back and come back in through our parking lot, I believe, to pick up the town hall annex, possibly the Vine Cottage, excuse me, in the Playhouse. So we'll get those back online or get those online and start. And I think that kind of brings us through. Kevin, do you want me to talk the 2021 goals, or do we have time, or do you want to wait?
We can wait. We can wait for next month.
Okay. That kind of brings you through as to where we're attacking right now. And that's about it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Okay, no questions. The police department building project will be coming forward in June with the 2 work streams. Tiger didn't mention the bump out projects, Elm Street. Did you, Tiger?
Yes, I did. We're meeting with the police commission Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Okay. So if anyone would like to walk it with us, they're more than welcome.
Tucker Murphy's working on the Waveney House plan that Neil had asked for, use plan. And then the cell tower, I think I've said this in other venues, that the carriers are being surprisingly interested in New Canaan, or perhaps just the suburbs in general right now. And so we're getting very good news about the proposed public safety cell tower at Ponus Ridge. And we will probably be coming with further news in the next month or 2 about other locations in town. But it's very, very encouraging to have the carriers, not just a single carrier, but multiple carriers interested in increasing service in New Canaan. And
Kevin, if you were a betting man and you said Ponus Ridge would go online live, how far out do you suppose that might be?
Well, it's going to be an accelerated process because there's not much work going to the siting council, and they're doing engineering work now and planning, and then it'll be packaged together to go to the siting council. My guess is by midsummer.
Okay.
That'll take, it took 6 months for the Soundview Lane to get through siting council, but that was delayed because of the start of COVID. But I think So it's probably a 3 months process for the siting council. And then, so I would hope we're going to have approval by the end of the year, and then construction in the first half of 22. So
Sure. That'd be a home run if that comes through.
okay, anything else? Any other questions anyone has? And I think that this is George's last meeting. Is that correct, George?
It is, and I'd like to thank you, Kevin, for the opportunity to serve and the privilege to be able to hang out with the other people on this committee. It has been informative and reassuring to see the kind of quality effort that the people in New Canaan dedicate to their town. And I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, George is unfortunately moving off to West Hartford.
Yep.
And tomorrow night will be his final Board of Finance meeting. But thank you, George, for all your service to New Canaan and with this committee. It's been great to have you, and we're going to wish you well. But any other comments as George departs? And
Only,
We all
only
need
nice
to
ones.
second that. Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Thanks,
You
George.
did ask our
Okay.
permission that you could move.
Yeah, I'm in trouble with a lot of people for that. That's for sure.
someone's saying, so I received no comments by email, but Kathleen Corbett said, thank you, George, as well by chat. So thank you all. And I would take a motion to adjourn. Thank you all for your time today.
So moved.
Okay, we are adjourned on May 10th at 9:38. Thank you, George. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Be well.